Okay guys, welcome back to another video. We're going to be jumping into a whole series on female anatomy. Now you'll notice that I have done a how to draw the eyes video before, but this one, I like this version better as far as the format goes. That was all digital and I'm not a digital guy. So again, this will be part of the female anatomy series. So let's jump right into it. Now, we're going to be breaking down the very basic structures of the eye first. So always, always, always keep in mind, the eyeball is just that. It's a ball. The reason we think of it as almond shape is the shape of the eye socket, pressing the skin down over the eye, and that creates the sort of almond shape we're all used to. A lot of beginners, their main mistake is they don't understand exactly what's going on with the anatomy. And so they draw the shape that the eyelids form around the eye, but they don't really understand the structure behind that and what's going on under the skin, and that always translates. The more knowledge you have, the more that's going to show into your work and the more you're going to be able to do with it. So I just wanted to quickly demonstrate that really quick before we jump into our hand-drawn demo here. So again, starting off, a basic circle shape like this. Don't worry about it being 100% perfect. You don't want to be breaking out stencils and everything like that. That's going to take too much time, and you don't need it. Working from the elbow instead of the wrist will always help you in that department. You'll be able to make a lot cleaner, more accurate lines. So the top eyelid starts, on the outer edge of the eye, sort of around halfway, curves up, and goes down at a horizontal angle. And you'll start to notice, I've put 2 lines down already. That's because the eyelid does have thickness to it. And a lot of people miss that. So that's going to give some added depth and a bit of realism to the eye that you're going for. So you got your tear duct formed, the basic shape around the eye put in. And now you can start to kind of already see, okay, this is starting to look like an eye. And I kind of placed a little shorthand eye socket in just for a little bit of reference there. So we'll go in, kind of touch up a couple of things, make sure our angles are right. The top eyelid does angle down slightly past halfway on the interior side where the nose is at. Once you've got all that placed in, start putting in the iris and the pupil. We're not going to do a full, shading demo as well. I just wanted to cover the anatomy here. So we're just going to be putting things in their proper place and explaining just the foundational elements of the eye today. So let me fix this real quick. It's kind of a bit too big of a pupil there, kind of a little bit too large. Looks a little bit better. There we go. Okay, so solid structure. Now, for eyelashes, you don't want to do straight, rigid eyelashes like they're at the top. Eyelashes are fairly random. They vary in length and angle. Some eyelashes run kind of crisscross into each other. So, and with, a woman's eyelashes, they tend to be a little bit longer. I'm going to keep mine probably just a little bit shorter just to kind of replicate a more naturalistic look. But, if you're into character design, eyelashes are one way you can kind of show the character of your character. Are they more of like a naturalistic type, more of like a alluring type? So that's another thing that you can kind of keep in mind. Little details like that convey a whole lot about the personality, the sort of MO of a character, how they operate. So we'll add just a little bit of shading. Now, of course, everyone knows, they're shading in a pupil for sure. There's highlights and everything that goes into that. But also people miss that the white of the eye does actually have a little bit of shading to it as well. Most people kind of gloss over that and forget to fill that in. I always recommend, if you are going for like a super realistic look, use reference. Some people have this negative idea with reference that it's cheating. It's absolutely not. It's crucial, in fact, if you're trying to study. So might as well break out the reference. It's going to make your artwork that much stronger. Even if you're doing the comic book version like this right here, reference, it doesn't mean just because it's stylized that it shouldn't obey certain, foundational rules. Now you notice the eyelashes on this one are a little bit more, they're bolder for one, but they're kind of a shorthanded version. You do want to indicate the sort of feathering of some of the eyelashes poking out, some of the individual eyelashes, but you can do a thicker sort of version of that. It really depends on, what kind of style you have comic book wise. If you want to do that more, looser style instead of a hyper realistic version. I did just want to demonstrate that. I come from a comic book background as well, so I want to kind of include both here. Touching on eyebrows, again, these are made up of individual hairs. Now, I do like to give a little bit of blending, just soft shading within the shape of the eyebrow. But you want to keep the individual hairs of the eyebrow, but you don't want to, if you put too many hairs, they kind of stand out a little bit too much. You can get a little bit too much contrast, and you want that nice mix between soft shading and a little bit of pop to it. You want to see some of the individual hairs, but you're not going to spend all day putting in each individual hair one after the other, one after the other. I will also show here really quick, sort of the more stylized comic version. It's similar, it's just a little bit more simplified. So, I put the outline of how the brow is moving, and I don't just shade it in. I do like to indicate that there are some individual hairs. I'm just not going to take as much time to place each one in there. You just want to kind of suggest that they're there more than anything, and then you can fill it in solid black, or if you're blonde, you can, do that as well, leaving just a couple extra hairs, just suggesting what's there if you're into the more comic style of things here. Go ahead and finish off this comic eye. Now, I do like to make comic eyes, especially on women, a little bit larger. In real life, women do tend to have a little bit larger eyes than men. They can vary a whole lot, and particularly if you're using photo reference, that is a little bit taken care of for you. But with my comic book women, I like to put really large eyes in there. One of the guys I like to reference, or did when I was kind of coming up, was Michael Turner. He drew some gorgeous women and had very, very large eyes, so that's always kind of stuck with me. I've always kind of liked that look. It tends to create a more youthful look, and of course, like I said, women do tend to have slightly larger eyes than men, as well as eyelashes. So that's a key feature to remember that you input in there. All right, so let's talk really quick about the eye at different angles. So the eye socket right here, that forms everything. So that's going to be, the eyeball itself will be sitting inside there. And when you know the outer form around it, you'll understand why the skin moves in the way it does and the structure that's underneath it. So you want to spend time, it's the same exact thing, but you want to spend time studying, okay, this is what it looks like from the front. What does that same area here look like at this perspective or that perspective? And over time, you'll build a sort of three-dimensional map of whatever part of the anatomy you're studying in particular. So the eyeball, it's kind of partially blocked a little bit, as you can see, by that eye socket. And that eye socket, again, informs like how the skin kind of, where it recedes and where it pops out. And then, there's a cast shadow over it and all that good stuff. So you can study, maybe we'll do a skeletal study one of these days and kind of break down more the bone structure of things. Put in a couple highlights here. I think I might have gone too dark. I might fix that up really quick. But again, when you understand, like, okay, this structure is overlapping that structure, therefore it must have a cast shadow, you want to keep that in mind. I'm going to add a little bit of shading here for the white of the eye. And I really don't like that. Let's get that fixed up here. There we go. Starting a little bit better. So again, keeping in mind, got the thickness of the eyelids in there. That's just such a simple way to get so much more depth and, again, realism into your work. So don't forget that. Keep that in mind. Again, we'll add some eyelashes here, keeping them somewhat random, and they always attach to the top outermost part of the eyelid, not the inner, just so we don't forget. Finish up right there, and decent looking sort of profile view of the eye. And one last thing you want to keep in mind is spacing. So we'll wrap things up here real quick, but spacing. The eyes are one eye width apart. So that means that if you have, say you're looking at someone's face, you're going to put the first eye down, and then you can draw, and I'll demonstrate here real quick. You'll put the same, spacing in between the eyes. It just kind of keeps things in check. Of course, these are all general rules, but they're super helpful. So This is going to be a quick video. We'll see you in the next one. This is a short wrap-up of eyes, and we'll move on to the nose next.